Bueno, muchas gracias a todas y todos por acompañarnos en esta última mesa del día y de este congreso. Yo me voy a encargar de moderar esta mesa para la cual pues, me siento especialmente privilegiado, ¿no?, por el panel de expertos con el que contamos hoy. Vamos a comenzar con esta mesa, con la ponencia de una de las personas que yo creo que es un referente para todas y todos. Viene de la radio pública sueca, es Ole Zackrisson. Yo personalmente debo reconocer, Ole, que incluyo el ejemplo de la radio sueca en mis clases como ejemplo valioso de valor público, de aplicación de la inteligencia artificial con valor público. Y Ole nos va a hablar precisamente sobre un concepto sobre el que yo me declaro un fanático, que es el del bien común. Porque creo que no hay tecnología buena si no genera no solo un bien individual, sino también un bien colectivo, un bien común. Simplemente un dato. En el mundo somos 8.000 millones de personas. El 67% de la población tiene acceso a Internet, o dicho de otra manera, 2.500 millones de personas no son usuarios de Internet. Y la inteligencia artificial está bajo el paraguas de la madre de todas las tecnologías, que es Internet. Por lo tanto, creo que no hay tecnología buena, como decía antes, si no es inclusiva, si no es integradora y si no nos beneficia a todos por igual. No podemos dejar atrás a nadie. Y de alguna manera espero que Ole también nos explique cómo está beneficiando estas tecnologías al periodismo y el periodismo, por tanto, como servicio público, servicio social, también cómo puede mejorar nuestras vidas. Adelante, Ole.
Buenos días. Hablaré en inglés, lo siento. So I'm very grateful to be invited here to this anniversary. Swedish Radio that I represent also has our 100th anniversary next year. So we're really happy to see how it's done. My name is Ole Zackrisson, and I'm the head of AI and news strategy at Swedish Radio. So I come from a very editorial background. I'm a journalist, and I was the head of the national newsroom at Swedish Radio, but now I'm trying to accelerate AI at Swedish Radio. And why is this so important for us? Our AI strategy is to, with the help of AI, develop and enhance our journalism. That's our primary mission, because we're content people, no? The journalism is what we always have to have in focus. But of course, AI, and I see a lot of Spanish companies manifesting this as well, AI can be a great tool also for giving the audience a better user experience in, for example, apps and on the internet, as Alberto mentioned. And of course, like in any other company, we are looking so closely now to see how AI can improve our internal efficiency and productivity. We know with the help of AI that we can do things faster and more efficiently. But what I'm going to speak to you about today is how we can use AI for good, to help society, to center on those values, which in our case are the public service values of serving the whole audience. And I think also that we have a lot of common ground there as serious media companies who are favoring impartial, good, investigative journalism. So AI, I don't think AI is an end in itself. It's a tool to make our content and our companies better. So, this is really my passion to put values at the center of our digital innovation. Because we can't just do cool things or the shiny new things or use the latest AI models. We should do that as well, but we should always go back to our values and our strategy, because otherwise we're going to be completely lost in this fast changing landscape of AI. So I'm going to give you 8 examples that I think represent AI for good. They're going to be primarily from Swedish radio, but I also have some international examples, including a Spanish one. So the first example is that in our digital product, we have linear radio, we have podcasts, but our news offering at Swedish Radio is done via news clips. So it's atomized digital first news clips that are our primary news product. And I'm just going to show you how it works in our app.
Statsminister Ulf Kristersson och Magdalena Andersson höll idag en gemensam pressträff.
Krypterade telefonchattar stod i centrum.
Yeah, so you see, it's basically a playlist for news. Like a Spotify playlist with news clips. So we make 360 news clips.
De 2 Tyresöbröder som nu misstänks för terrorplaner med koppling till IS i Somalia har...
As the Swedish flag was raised at the NATO headquarters in Brussels today, the NATO flag was also raised in ceremonies around Sweden.
Yeah, so as I said, we make 360 news clips every day. We have 25 regional stations around Sweden. We have a big national newsroom where I used to be the boss. And we have science, culture, sports, all these departments. And we used to have very different ideas of what is news. But in a digital experience, we have to have a more standardized format. So we create this playlist via an editorial algorithm. And in this algorithm, of course, we assess how big is the news, what's the magnitude, how big is it for society, but also the lifespan. A big traffic accident outside Barcelona, that's a very short lifespan, but an investigative piece is a very long lifespan. But the third dimension in this algorithm is what we call SR values, some carefully picked out public service values that pieces or clips with more public service values have more prominence in the product. So I will give you 5 examples of those SR values. The first is to be on location. This is so important for us as a public service company and also with this national network. And we have 20 foreign correspondents around the world. So being out there, talking to people, not just talk to politicians and experts all the time, but to meet listeners and citizens, basically. To have affected voices. It's to give people agency, to listen to all these smart perspectives that are out there, and also speak to the people who are affected by the news. It's very important for us. To give new perspectives, classic public service. To provide our own analysis, not just re-report the news, but also, as one in the video mentioned, to put it into context, to give the background, to explain the news. And then, as we are an audio company, we have strong audio storytelling as a SR goal. So that's my first example. A second example is through AI, we can make our journalism more accessible for larger groups. For example, people with different kind of impairments. So we know that 1.5 million Swedes out of a population of 10 million have some kind of hearing difficulty. We know that a lot of people, of course, have visual problems, but in this case, they don't have access to our rich audio content. So through transcription of audio, also in audience-facing products, we want to help them. And this is something that we just launched now as a prototype this week on 3 podcasts. So I will show you.
Lubna, du har bevakat kriget i Ukraina från start. Hade du då, liksom när flyglarmen ljöd för första gången, kunnat föreställa dig att nordkoreanska soldater skulle komma dit?
Det är nog mycket jag inte har kunnat föreställa mig, men det säger någonting om hur absurd den här situationen är.
Det här är Dagens Eko med Robin Olin.
So you can see that you can follow the audio line by line and also have it texted. It's also a bit of a new navigation that you can press on the text and the audio jumps to that point. And of course, with the new state-of-the-art AI models, the transcription is so good. We have a disclaimer up there that this is done with the support of AI and can contain errors, but actually the errors are pretty small. It's a little bit that it misunderstands a name, for example. So I think this is a good example of how to use AI to basically enhance our audience and to reach out to people who can't hear. Speaking of that, if you have problems seeing and reading in a visual sense, you know that you use this kind of screen reader to hear the screen or the website is read out loud by a synthetic voice, a big impairment aid. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. And for that to work properly, we need to describe the pictures. What is in the pictures? And often our digital editors are too stressed to do that. So they just put classical music or court or Trump or whatever, something really short. Sometimes just X, because they have to do that before they publish. And now with the new AI tool, we're giving our newsrooms an AI tool to help them do that better. So my colleague is doing a demo here in our CMS, taking a picture of cricket, pressing a little robot sign there, and basically getting a suggestion for a better image description. And it works really well. We always have a manual overview, so the editor checks that it's correct and everything, but it's a very great support to have better image descriptions using AI.
Så det var bilder. Som sagt så har vi experimenterat med rubriker också.
But we also use it for headlines, basically. So from the transcribed audio, the editors will now have a suggested headline as a headline tool, if you see what I mean, yeah? So our news clips, we summarize them in 3 bullet points, or we do a text, and this is a really good way of getting the audio faster out to the audience with the AI support. Of course, we have to check that it's correct, that it's impartial, that it's following our program rules. But I think it's a good tool to also help us do our job better. So, minority languages. We produce content in 12 different languages. Arabic, Somali, Persian, but we have 4 official minority languages in Sweden. Finnish, Sami, and Sami in the north of Sweden for the indigenous people of Sweden. It's a very, very small and threatened language. But we have a lot of content there. We have been doing content in Sami language for decades. So we have a unique database of Sami content. And now we're together with universities helping to train a language model in this Sami language. And I know that you have people from different parts of Spain represented here, also some smaller languages. And I think this is a great way of using our audio content to help train models that can be better for society. So, a lot of us don't speak the original language. I can understand a little bit of Spanish, but I don't speak it, so I can't understand the content of Carrusel Deportivo or whatever. And we can help, of course, with AI, people to understand the content better. This is a prototype from the public service company NOS in the Netherlands. So they write the article in the original Dutch language, and then you can just have a toggle down or a little menu, and you can choose the language yourself, and the article is translated with AI. Okay, we have a fine colleague in Sweden and a big competitor called Spotify, and they are a massive company, of course, which is it's good for us that it's a Swedish company, but it's also heavy competition because they have a budget of R&D, research and development, much bigger than the whole of Swedish radio. And they are doing a lot of stuff with translation. So we're going to now see a clip from the Lex Fridman podcast. Lex Fridman is a podcast host who often interviews prominent tech people, in this case Jeff Bezos from Amazon, and all of a sudden they speak Spanish.
La versión original de este episodio fue grabada en inglés. Las traducciones de voz se generan de forma artificial.
Now,
La siguiente es una conversación con Jeff Bezos, fundador de Amazon y Blue Origin. Esta es la primera vez que mantiene una conversación de este tipo y de esta duración, y según me dijo, sentí fácilmente que podríamos haber hablado durante muchas más horas, y estoy seguro de que lo haremos.
Y todo tipo de atención médica que salva vidas, etcétera, etcétera. Y hay una cosa que está retrocediendo y es el mundo natural.
Does it sound good in Spanish? It's okay. But as you see, it's both translating, it's transcribing, but it's also cloning the voice, so it keeps the original expression of the voice. Hey, we're going to see so many products like this. We're going to see so much new competition. We see national and local newspapers in Sweden almost launching now radio products with local content using generative AI and synthetic voices. So it's not some kind of futurism, you know, this will happen. It's here, and we all have to deal with it. So another example of reaching out to a wider audience with the help of AI and translation is that within the public service system, we have an organization called EBU, European Broadcasting Union. So, for example, we have Spanish TV and radio here, or Swedish radio. And we now change news content with each other in a platform using AI for translation and transcription. So, for example, a news piece from a local newsroom in Sweden can end up on the front page of France Info, which is one of the biggest websites, of course, in France for news. And it's translated via AI, and a synthetic voice is used. It doesn't sound so well, but you're going to listen to it now.
Et dans les prochaines semaines, les citoyens suédois qui auront 18 ans cette année recevront dans leur boîte aux lettres une lettre sur les étapes de leur enrôlement dans l'armée, dans le cadre du service militaire obligatoire. La conscription a été réintroduite en Suède il y a quelques années, et un nombre record de jeunes gens depuis vont être convoqués au printemps dans le cadre du processus de sélection de l'enrôlement. Parmi ceux qui vont recevoir une lettre, il y a Eric Tarodi, qui habite à Karlstad. Il évoque la perspective du service militaire. Il explique que ce n'est pas quelque chose qu'il attend avec
you get
impatience
a
ou qu'il
bit
désire
stressed
ardemment.
when you hear this, because, I mean, the voice is a bit manic. But it's a good way of also showing our content to a wider audience. And in this case, we check the transcription and the translation to English. And so that is correct, and they have the opportunity then to translate it via AI to French. So this is a big discussion, and I heard also a mention here of fake news and how it's accelerating also with AI. And of course, this is such a big thing when AI search is now coming more and more. A couple of weeks ago, AI search, web search, was introduced in ChatGPT, as you all know. And it's a formidable way of searching for news. Now I'm searching for the latest news about Valencia floods. And of course, it gives me a really good summary. It links to the sources, but I can get the full news in here. I can get embedded videos. What happens to our platforms, you know? We have to have this conversation. We have had a strategy for 3 years saying, hey, we don't want to give away all our content, but get them to our app and our website. What happens in this context? How can we make sure that trustworthy information is having a prominence? We saw a new service just launched 2 weeks ago from the Washington Post trying to deal with this. So you can put any news-related question to this service, and it picks up answers only if it can find relevant articles. And if it can't find relevant articles, it says no, basically. Sorry, we don't have any trustworthy content on that. So in this EBU project, we're also trying a prototype of this, and I'm going to show you how it works.
Biden is on the run from his record and lying like crazy.
So in this prototype we call NEO, it's a conversational search where you can ask any news-related question to the database, only with public service journalism, and it picks up 10 stories, summarizes them, and links and lets the user browse them through the stories from Spain or Ireland or Sweden or any other country in here. And you can also play it like this.
For centuries, Sweden's...
So, linked to this is, of course, also the proper faked information. Like this is a news clip of the London Mayor Sadiq Khan, whose voice was cloned, so a deep fake. And, of course, in a very sensitive moment around the Gaza protests in London.
I control the Met Police. They will do as the Mayor of London tells them and obey orders.
It was deliberately made to give the impression that I'd said what I hadn't said, but it looked and sounded so authentic. You know, we did get concerned very quickly about what impression it may create.
So, of course, we have seen that these kind of fakes, they have real life consequences. They do impact society. And, of course, this is a very serious challenge for us in the established media. And we see now a lot of new initiatives coming here, like Project BBC Verify, which is a big thing at Verify. We have our sister company in Sweden, which has a big verification desk. We are educating now what we call spearheads in misinformation and verification. New standards are emerging from also to kind of water stamp content, so you know it's from the original source. We have a great example also from Prisa Media, and Anna told me that, for example, it has been used now to detect faked audio from Venezuela or Mexico. I think it's a very great initiative also in the audio realm. And finally, I just want to say that we have entered an age where also a trust dilemma has occurred. Because it's not only that people are more vigilant and around misinformation and faked content, it can also create, of course, the reaction that people don't trust content at all. So real content, hey, why should I bother? This maybe has been generated with AI. So for example, with Trump, a lot of these images, like you see to the left, have been faked, of course, on Trump. But this to the right is a real image. And when I show this without having the stamp on, often people think that the picture to the right is the faked one. Let me just close with these final words. Content and AI-generated content is not the same as real journalism. Let's not forget that in this landscape. We as serious media companies have a real obligation also to stand up and explaining what's the difference between just information on the internet and real journalism. For me, real journalism is being out there, like our two correspondents in the Ukraine, you know, taking bullets for the audience and really trying to verify for themselves. So I think we should keep doing that in the next 100 years also. Thank you.
Thank you.